Hey everybody, welcome. I'm Dr. Perkins and welcome to another conversation today. We are talking about, can you develop PCOS after pregnancy? Thank you so much for being with us today, and I know you're curious to dive right in, and we will break this all apart today. But let's first talk about the overview of this video. We'll first understand the changes that happen after pregnancy. With this, we'll then dive into the changes that may be PCOS-like after pregnancy. We'll then dive into what to do if you suspect that you are having PCOS-like symptoms, and then we'll finish up by talking about holistic ways that you can cure or treat PCOS. All right, so let's dive into our conversation today. Does pregnancy change your body? Yes. Is it in a way that's usually comfortable? Probably not. A lot of times it's not even welcome, but we bring about such a beautiful life. And because of that, we just kind of deal with the process. But some of those changes may linger for quite some time. And they may also cause you to either develop PCOS or develop PCOS-like symptoms. So let's talk about hormonal changes first off. Yes, pregnancy is a hormonal condition. It's a major hormonal condition. And so when we think of pregnancy in the beginning, where you have egg and sperm meet and you're probably feeling just about normal, but the hormones are completely changing in the background, to the second trimester when you're just like, oh yeah, I'm really pregnant. I survived the first trimester and I'm here kind of cruising, but we're starting to show and we're starting to feel all those hormonal changes. And then you hit your third trimester and you're just like, okay, I'm ready for this to be over. We're truly pregnant. I feel it. I see it. And then you have your baby and such a beautiful time. And then you go through what we consider to be the fourth trimester, the postpartum period, probably one of the most chaotic hormonal periods you will ever experience, but one that really is set to bring you back to pre-pregnancy conditions, or states, should I say. Now, that period of time after you deliver your baby can really last about 2 years. That's 2 years of undergoing postpartum changes due to your hormones. So I say all of that to say, for if we, time this well, about a 3-year period of time from conception to clearing postpartum changes, you're going through a lot of hormonal changes. And when we think of PCOS is a hormonal condition as well. And so some of the hormones that are playing a part with PCOS are very similar to those hormones that play a part in pregnancy and the postpartum period as well. So what does this mean? This means that hormones are in flux and may mimic each other with PCOS as well as with postpartum periods. Another change that happens with pregnancy is weight gain. There's no way to not gain weight. It's mandatory. It will happen even if you try not to make it happen. It's important for the developing baby, as well as supporting your body as you undergo these changes. Now, in general, we would like for the average size person to gain somewhere of, I would say, between 25 and 35 pounds in pregnancy. Sometimes we gain less than that, and sometimes we gain more. In general, if you gain more than 35 pounds on average, then it means that we've gained weight outside of that which the pregnancy is causing, which means that we are, for instance, let's break it down a bit. You get pregnant, your uterus is stretching, it is growing, it's gaining weight. There's fluid that supports the growing pregnancy. That's a lot of weight. We carry sometimes a few liters of water surrounding baby. We have a placenta that can grow to be like quite big and has weight associated with that as well. Your blood levels will almost double in pregnancy, which means that I'm not pregnant at this time. The amount of blood that I have now will almost double if I were to be pregnant. That's a lot of additional weight that your body is carrying, really in support of that pregnancy. Now, if we gain excessive weight, then it means that we're actually gaining fat cells. That becomes a part of you even when you're no longer pregnant. In general, after you deliver your baby, the 25, 30 pounds, 35 pounds, 40 pounds, however, the majority of what you gain because of the pregnancy itself will be lost. In general, most people lose that weight within the first 6 to 12 weeks after you deliver your baby. Anything additional beyond that, more than likely, will lead to your fat cells developing and growing and becomes a part of you, which means that as you go through the postpartum period, if you want to lose that weight, you have to put in a lot of extra work to get your cells and fat cells to shrink down. Now, weight gain, especially excessive weight gain, is a part of PCOS. Oftentimes, that condition, PCOS, will happen in people who are obese or overweight, which means that after pregnancy, weight gain can lead to you developing PCOS. With pregnancy, you can also start to develop insulin resistance. Insulin resistance is a part of 70% of PCOS patients. And so what that means is that your body is no longer able to process carbohydrates the way that it normally would. And it also means that your body is trying to create all the insulin or excess insulin to allow your cells to be able to use that carbohydrates. And when the system doesn't work really, really well, you create resistance. With that, you may be predisposed to developing PCOS because of what started in pregnancy but lingers afterwards. Lastly, I'd like to mention that there are genes that are linked with PCOS. Well, our research community, we're still working on trying to understand PCOS well enough so we can answer these questions, with more facts, but we're not there yet. But we do know that research is starting to show that there are genetic links to developing PCOS. Now, some people may develop PCOS as early as in their teenage years, and some may know of this diagnosis well later in their 30s or 40s or even 50s. Now, the difference here is that if we throw a pregnancy in the mix, because of all of these changes that we mentioned, the hormonal changes, the weight gain that comes with pregnancy, and all of this packaged together, these may lead to the underlying PCOS condition coming about and showing its face in a way that you might have not really recognized before that. It doesn't necessarily mean that the pregnancy caused PCOS to occur. It just highlighted what was in the background, and now you're getting diagnosed now after pregnancy. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, PCOS affects about 6% to 12% of women of reproductive age. A study published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism found that women who experienced significant weight gain postpartum were more likely to exhibit PCOS symptoms. And one last study here, in the American Journal of Obstetrics and Gynecology, they highlighted the role of insulin resistance and postpartum weight retention in the development of PCOS-like symptoms. So these studies are showing that, yes, after pregnancy, you may develop PCOS, but you may have PCOS-like symptoms as well. And having the symptoms doesn't necessarily mean that you have PCOS. It just means that they mimic each other. And so because of this, it's super important that we see our physicians and have this discussion, talk about what you're feeling, talk about what you're experiencing so that we can evaluate and create the diagnosis if it does exist. So you may be wondering, what symptoms are those? So what am I looking for? Well, there are several. The first is that you may not have regular periods anymore. You may skip a period or two. You may go 3 or 4 months without seeing a cycle. This is not normal. You should see a cycle every 21 to 35 days. The next is that you may have excessive hair growth on your skin, on your body, on your chin, on your chest. Something that's very new and different for you. You may have a lot of hair thinning, especially that it resembles that of a male, with male pattern baldness, losing the edges of your hair, things like that may be linked with PCOS as well. You may also have a lot of acne issues. In general, acne will be associated for very important times like puberty when your hormones are beginning, or pregnancy when your hormones are raging. But in general, once you're stabilized, you should not have acne, especially due to hormonal changes all the time. And so with that, this may be linked with PCOS as well. Now, these are only a few of those symptoms, but if you're experiencing them, it is worth the conversation with your provider to kind of evaluate and see where this is coming from. So let's quickly touch on how do we holistically manage PCOS if you do have those symptoms. Now, this is not the core of our video, and we have plenty more that will discuss this in much more details, but just know that if you have PCOS, because it is a hormonal condition, we're able to manipulate and rebalance your hormones to assist with this. Now, this incorporates your diet, making sure that you're eating a well-balanced diet every single day. It means that you're staying physically active with regular activities in the gym or outside of the gym, those that really challenge your system metabolically and cardiovascularly. It also means that you are in a more balanced state where you're not super stressed out. It means that you are sleeping well and really caring for your body in a way that is beyond the things that we eat, the movements that we are doing. Now, again, like I mentioned, this is just a touch, but if you are concerned that your lifestyle may be impacting your hormones, guess what? I have a free quiz for you today that will kind of help you to kind of break that apart and break it down and say, hey, what can I do a little bit differently to help my body function better? And so if you'd like that, go ahead and look in the description, click that link, take that quiz. I will send you detailed information assessing who you are inside and out. Also, if you'd like to talk about PCOS just a bit more, you can check out my blog that dives into PCOS and all its different parts that are important to helping us understand the condition. I dive into that. So go ahead and check that in the link below as well. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for joining us in this conversation. And listen, if you have a comment, if you've experienced some of these things and you would like to talk about it a little bit more, go ahead, leave that comment today and let's have this conversation. I'm Dr. Perkins. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you next time.